Right, look at this problem. This is a problem on index futures, a very conceptual oriented problem. This problem stresses the importance of conceptual knowledge rather than doing the problems in formula based. Okay, look at this. So Nifty is currently quoting at 11,000. Nifty historically delivered 4% dividend yield per annum. A 6 months futures contract on Nifty is trading at 11,500. During the next 6 months, 50% of the stocks are expected to pay dividend. Derive the risk-free rate embedded in the quoted futures price. Okay, so they have already given the futures value. They have already given the futures value. By using the futures value, we need to calculate the risk-free rate. Normal problems is that risk-free rate is given. We have to calculate the futures price. So this problem is futures price they have given, and we need to calculate the risk-free rate as a balancing figure. Okay, right. So most especially, so for the entire SFM subject, it is advisable to go by the conceptual knowledge rather than formula based solving the problems. And most especially in the derivatives where the problems are unique, there will be small change in problem to problem. And if you go by the rigid formulas, you'll end up with the wrong answer. So therefore, I'll completely avoid using the formulas and focus on the conceptual way of doing the problem. Okay. So here in this problem, without using the formula, without using any formula, how will you calculate the future price? Very simple. So understand the principle of futures pricing. Principle of futures pricing. What is the concept involved in futures pricing? The concept involved in futures pricing is that so purchasing a stock, risky asset involves risk. Purchasing a share or risky asset. Equity shares are risky assets. Therefore, purchasing equity shares involves some element of risk. Okay, but when you enter a forward contract, that risk element is removed. Okay, no doubt, purchasing an equity shares involve risk. But after purchasing the equity share, if you enter into a forward contract, you are eliminating the risk associated with the equity share. Okay, since you are eliminating the risk associated with the equity share, therefore you are holding a riskless position. You are entitled only for a risk-free rate of return. That is the concept. Okay, after purchasing a stock, if you enter into a forward contract, you are removing the risk involved in the stock. Therefore, you are ending up with a riskless position. Accordingly, you are entitled only for a risk-free rate of return. That is the concept. Okay, so purchase of stock. So entering a futures contract. So purchase of stock and entering futures contract plus entering futures contract. Entering a futures contract, futures or forward contract is equal to risk-free asset. Because even though equity share normally, even though this equity share is very risky, whose price will fluctuate. The equity share is very risky, whose prices fluctuate. But by way of entering the forward contract, I have frozen my sale price. Therefore, for me, there is no uncertainty regarding my sale price, because irrespective of the price prevailing after 6 months or 3 months, I have already entered into a forward or futures contract. Thereby, I am freezing my sale price. The moment I freeze my sale price, my position is risk-free asset only. Today, I am investing 1 lakh in a bank fixed deposit. Definitely, I know how much I'll get after 1 year. Okay, that means my redemption amount is freezed. Similarly, today I am purchasing a stock, and by entering into a future contract, I am freezing my sale price. So therefore, whatever is the risk associated in this stock, is removed by entering this futures contract. Therefore, the resultant position is risk-free asset. Your boss, you are not taking any risk. Remember, boss, even though you purchased an equity share, but still, since you have entered into a forward contract, you are not taking any risk. You have avoided the risk. Therefore, you are entitled only for risk-free rate of return. Okay, since you have avoided the risk, don't expect risk premium. Okay, only those who took the risk are eligible for risk premium. Since you have completely avoided the risk by entering into futures contract, you are not entitled for any risk premium. You are eligible only for a risk-free rate of return. And whatever the amount you have invested, you are eligible only for a risk-free rate of return. Okay, therefore, a person who purchased the stock, and entered futures contract is eligible for entitled only for risk-free rate of return. This is the concept. Is entitled only for risk-free rate of return. Okay, right. The problem. So therefore, since my position is riskless position, I'm entitled only for a risk-free rate of return. Sir, how I'll get the risk-free rate of return? Normally, look at this concept. How will I get the risk-free rate of return? Okay, right. So an investor purchased a share from the company or stock market Investor purchased the share from the company or stock market, and investor entered into a forward contract, and investor entered into a forward or futures contract. Okay, so he will get income since he purchased the stock. He will get income from this stock, say dividend. If you purchase the bond, he will get interest income. That means this is called as an underlying. So this is called as an underlying. On that underlying, you'll get some income. On that underlying, you'll get some income. So the balance only you have to get risk-free rate of return. You are eligible only for risk-free rate of return. So this investor is eligible only for a risk-free rate of return. Out of that risk-free rate of return, already he got some portion in the form of dividend. Therefore, what he was eligible from the forward contract is only the net figure. Okay, your total return for which you are entitled for, the total return for which you can expect is only risk-free rate of return. Out of your total eligible return, already you got some portion in the form of dividend. Therefore, balance amount only you can expect from the forward contract. So, for example, you are expecting 5% risk-free rate of return, and 2% is already given in the form of dividend. And from the forward contract, you can expect 3%. 3 plus 2 together is 5. Okay, your total eligible return is risk-free rate of return. Out of that, some portion is already received in the form of dividend. So therefore, the balance portion only you can receive from the forward price. Okay, so this is the concept. This is the concept of forward pricing. So therefore, without using any formula, if you calculate what is the forward price, look at this. Okay, right. So for amount invested, present price of the stock, or amount invested to purchase the stock, amount invested to purchase the stock, amount invested to purchase the stock. This is what's the point. Amount invested to purchase the stock. This I'll put it as A. So amount invested to purchase the stock. So this B point is written. B point is written. So this return within the B point, total return, total eligible return is risk-free return. Total eligible return is risk-free return. Total eligible return is risk-free return. Less interim income, less return from the underlying, return from the underlying. So return from the forward contract, return from the forward derivative contract. Okay, return from futures or return from forwards or futures, Okay, total eligible return is risk-free rate of return. Out of that, return from the underlying, the net return from the forward. So therefore, this will be the forwards price, forward or futures price. So what is my investment? What is the return I should expect? And what is my sale price? So what is my sale price? Futures or forwards or futures price? Forwards or futures price. Sema, this is like my cost mark. This is like my cost. Okay. This is my profit element. So this will be sale price. As simple as that. Basic costing terminology without using any complicated formulas or without using any confusing terminologies or nomenclature. Very simple. This is my cost and this is my profit, but total is my sale price. Okay. What is the amount I have invested to purchase the stock? 11,000. What is the amount I have invested to purchase the stock? 11,000. Okay, this is the amount. So return, total eligible return, and return from the underlying. So this is the forward price. Okay, fine. Now, so if you put the same thing into a formula wise, not in the formula wise, in the equation type, look at this. Okay, therefore my total price here is total forward price. So total forward price is equal to total forward price or futures price is equal to. So futures price is equal to investment amount. So what is the investment amount? Okay, what is the investment amount? Plus gross return on investment. Gross return on investment. Okay, gross return on investment. That is my risk-free rate of return minus return from the underlying. Okay, this total portion is called net return from the forward contract. Net return from forwards or futures. My total eligible return is risk-free rate of return. Out of that, from the underlying, I am already getting some portion. The net amount only I am eligible from the forwards or futures contract. Okay, right? That is what the point. Now, so what is my investment amount? 11,000 is my investment amount. What is my gross return? Okay, this futures price they have already given me 11,500. We need to calculate the risk-free rate of return. Gross return on the investment. So how will you calculate the return on investment? Very simple. Amount invested into rate of interest into period. How many months? N by 12, 6 by 12 months. Okay, this is the interest. This is the routine formula. There is no complication in this. This is a very routine formula, no complication there. And return from the underlying, and return from the underlying. That is called as a dividend income. That is called as a dividend income. This is what we are doing. Okay, right. Now we'll take this 11,500 is equal to 11,000 plus this 11,000 into R. That is what we have to find out. R into N by 12. What is the duration of futures contract? 6 by 12. Half minus dividend amount. Dividend amount we need to calculate separately. Dividend amount we need to calculate separately. So put the heading for dividend amount. Working note will put the heading for the dividend amount. Okay, dividend amount, computation of dividend amount. So don't go by the formula, just look at the concept. So this problem is somewhat closer to reality. Computation of dividend yield on underlying. Dividend on underlying, computation of dividend on underlying. Okay, right. So what is the total value of the index? What is the total value of the index here? Okay, what is the total value of the index is 11,000. As of now, the total value of the index is 11,000, and the dividend is yield is 4%. Remember, till now we have saw in the previous lectures we have discussed the problems where we have directly applied the dividend yield on this, where we have directly applied the dividend yield. So whatever the dividend yield is given, that we have directly applied on the index value. That we have directly applied on the index value. That is what we have seen in the previous problem. But what is the underlying assumption? Underlying assumption. If you apply the yield on the index value, what is your underlying assumption? Okay, our underlying assumption is that all the 50 stocks embedded in the Nifty future, embedded in the Nifty index will pay the same dividend of 4%. That is what is the important point. Okay, so don't just simply do the problems in an unconscious way. Whatever you are doing, every arithmetic, addition, multiplication or subtraction, every arithmetic, be conscious of what does it stands for, what you are doing. What you are doing. Don't simply do 4 into 4 to 8, 8 4 to 32. Don't do simple arithmetics. Okay, be conscious of what you are doing. If I apply that 4% to 11,000, what I am assuming is that in the Nifty, NSE Nifty, there are 50 stocks. All the 50 stocks will pay 4% yield. That is what is my assumption. But that may not be true. Even though we have solved many problems, academic problems in the previous lectures, but that is not true. All the 50 stocks in the Nifty may not pay the dividend. Okay, therefore this problem says somewhat closer realistic assumption, saying that only 50% of the stocks are expected to pay dividend. So therefore, if this information is not given, students will apply 11,000 into 4%. But how many students are conscious that your assumption is all the 50 stocks are paying the same rate of dividend? That is the assumption. So how many students are conscious? That is what the point. Okay, so therefore, don't do the problems in an unconscious manner. Be conscious and be alert and know the underlying principle of doing each and every calculation. Okay, so if I apply 4% on the entire 11,000, I am assuming that all the 50 stocks in the index will pay the dividend. But in reality, it may not be correct. So therefore, this problem says only 50% of the stocks are expected to pay dividend, not all the stocks. So therefore, so value of the index, present value of the index. So present index value, present today's index value. So present index value is how much? 11,000. Present index values is 11,000. Here also one more point. Students are not taking the assumption. What they have given is 11,000. Actually, that is a points, not rupees. Okay, index points, when I say Sensex is 42 or 48 or 50, that is the points, not 42 rupees or 50 rupees. Similarly, NSE Nifty 11,000 or 14,000, those are points, not rupees. But since the information is not given, we are assuming that each point is 1 rupee. Therefore, if you take 11,000, it is a blunder assumption. But if you take 11,000 into 1, okay, price per each point, price per each point, price per each point, 1 rupee. This is 1 rupee. This is points. This 11,000 is points. This is 1 rupee. Price per each point is 1 rupee. Okay. So the end result will be 11,000 only. A student who did this 1 rupee also will get the same answer. A student who completely skipped this point also will get the same answer, 11,000. But are you conscious that what is given is the index points? Then how you are taking it as a rupees? So therefore, normally price per each point, if they give, take it. If they have not given anything, then assume it as a. This is the assumption. This is the assumption. Be conscious of under what assumptions or under what circumstances your calculations holds good. Okay, right. So this is the assumption. Therefore, if I remove this also, I'll get the same 11,000. But am I conscious of what I am doing? If they give points, how can they take it as a? How can I take it as a rupees? Therefore, I am assuming that each price per each point is 1 rupee. Therefore, this is the 11,000 rupees. Okay, index price. Index price 11,000. Okay, percentage of stocks paying dividend. Percentage of stocks paying dividend. So this is the value, summarized value of all the 50 stocks. Okay, index price, this is summarized value of all index points. So 50% of the stocks are paying the dividend. Out of 50 stocks, only 25 stocks are going to pay the dividend. That is what is the information given. Okay, so value eligible for a dividend, value entitled for a dividend. So what is the value on which you'll get the dividend? 11,000, only 50% will give the dividend, 5,500. Okay, value entitled for dividend. Next, dividend yield per annum. Dividend yield per annum. Dividend yield per annum, how much they have given? 4%. But what is the duration of contract? That is 4 per annum. That is 4 per annum. What is the duration of contract? Duration of futures contract. Duration of futures contract is 6 months. Duration of futures contract is 6 months. Okay, duration of futures contract is 6 months. This is for 12 months. This is for 12 months. This is for 12 months. So therefore, dividend for 6 months. Dividend for 6 months. Dividend for 6 months. Okay, so what is the dividend for 6 months? So if the 5,000 is for 4 months, 5,000 into 4% into 6 by 12, that is for 12 months. How much is for 6 months? This will be 110. This is the rate dividend amount. This is the dividend amount eligible from the underlying. So this we have to substitute in this formula. Let's return from the underlying. This we have to substitute it. Okay, this we have to substitute it. 110. Okay, right. That is the point. 110. So therefore, this dividend amount is 110. This dividend amount is 110. Be clear, ma? How many assumptions? First assumption is that each index point is 1 rupee worth. First assumption is that each index point is 1 rupee worth. Okay, that is the important assumption we have made. Next, so this is how we will take it. Now if you solve this point, 11,500 is equal to 11,000 plus 11,000 into 0.5 r, 11,000 into r into 0.5 minus 110, minus 110. Okay, minus 110, minus 110. So that will be 11,500 is equal to 11,000 plus 0.5 r into 11,000. That means 5,500 r minus 110. Minus 110. So therefore 11,500 is equal to 11,000 minus 110 is how much? 11,000 minus 110, 10,890 plus 5,500 r. Okay, so 11,500 minus 10,890 is equal to 5,500 r, is equal to 5,500 r. So that will be how much? It will be 110 plus 500, 660, 5,500 r. Therefore, r is equal to 660 divided by 5,500. 660 divided by 5,500. That is equal to 660 divided by 5,000. So r is equal to 660 divided by 5,500. This will be 12%. 12%. No? 1 minute. That will be 12% or some 11 point change. Let me check it. The digits. That will be 12%. Okay, 660. So 510, 660. So 660 divided by 5,500 r. This will be how much? This will be 12%. This will be 12%. 0.12 or 12%. R is equal to 12%. 0.12 or R is equal to 12%. Okay. So 11,000 into R into 0.5 minus 110 we have received. Okay. 11,000 minus 110. How much? 10,890. Let me check the calculations once again. 11,000 minus 110. 11,000 minus 110. It will be 890. 10,890. So therefore 11,500 minus 10,890. Okay, it will be 610. It will be 610. Sorry, not 660, 610 circles. But it's 610. It is 610. It will be 610, not 660. It will be 610. Okay, it will be 610. So in that case, the answer will be different. 610 divided by 550. Okay, 610 divided by 610 divided by how much? 5,500. 5,500. 610 divided by 5,500. So this will be 11%. So how much it is? 11%. It will be 11% per annum. Okay, so therefore R is equal to 0.11 or 11% per annum. R is equal to 11% per annum. Okay, since we have to compute the R indirectly by using that, we have seen the equation. So if the R is given, and if they ask you to compute, so this calculation, if the futures price is given and R we have to calculate. Okay, so this is what we will do. Don't use any complicated formula, just understand that. So purchasing a stock and entering into a futures contract results in riskless position. So even though you purchased a risky asset, by entering into a futures contract, we have completely eliminated the risk associated with the stock. So therefore, you are eligible only for a risk-free rate of return. We can't demand more than that. So if you are paying more than that amount, you are a fool. That's it. It is unwise to pay more than that amount. Okay, right. So if the futures price is given, and they ask you to risk-free rate of return, you can use this way of calculation. On the other hand, if they give directly risk-free rate of return, normal problems, and they ask you to compute the futures price, this is how we can calculate it. Okay, look at this. So 11,000 into 11%. This is for per annum into 6 months. I am entitled for this return. So therefore, my total eligible return is 605. My total eligible return is 605. Out of that 605 return, 10%, 110, I am getting from the underlying. My total eligible return is 600. Out of that 110, I am already getting from the underlying. 110, I am already getting from the underlying. So therefore, balance I should get from this thing. Balance I should get from what? Right. Balance I should get from the futures contract is only 495 income from the futures contract. So this will be this point, 11,495. So what they have given is 11,500. That is a rounding of error. Is here we have taken 11% round figure. If you take 11.1% or 11.2%, you'll get it. Just check it. If it is take 11.1%, 11.1%, you'll get the answer. 11,500. Okay, the same thing. Just rounding of figures. Okay, ma? Right. That is what the point. Therefore, look at this concept. Nowhere I have used S0 into 1 plus R whole to the power of n, or S0 into e to the power of R minus d whole to the power of t. No formulas, nothing. No need to use the formulas. If you go with the rigid formulas, if you get a small change in the examination problem, you'll not be able to do it. Even if you get a small change in the examination problem, you'll not be able to do it. So therefore, don't stick on to the rigid formulas. Understand the concept. Purchasing a risky stock, equity shares involve risk, but entering into a futures contract completely eliminate that risk. Therefore, I am eligible only for a risk-free rate of return. This 605 is my total return on this investment of. Look at this. On this investment of 11,000, this is what my total return. Out of this 605, one I am getting from the stock. Of 110, and another I am getting from the futures contract. So that is 495. That is what is the concept. Okay. So I hold a stock and I also hold a futures contract. Both together combination is a risk-free asset. Okay, I purchased the stock and also I entered a futures contract. So both are my portfolio constituents. Okay, so my total eligible return is 605. Out of that, I am getting 110 from the stock. I'll get 495 for the future. This is my return. Profit from the futures contract. This is profit from futures contract. So if I want the sale price, this is my cost and this is my profit from futures contract. Therefore, my sale price of futures contract is this much as this. Pure conceptual knowledge. Don't by heart that S0 into e to the power of R minus d into t, or S0 into 1 plus R whole to the power of n. All these formulas, your formulas will make you unconscious. While you are doing the problem, so far as you apply the formulas, you are not conscious of what's going on in the problem. Okay, right? So in this problem, so one assumption is that each index point is 1 rupee. That another assumption. One more assumption is that. So when you will get this dividend. So even though you have calculated the answer, but one assumption you have missed out this. What is the assumption? So even when you will get this 110 is the question mark. You will get 110. When you will get the 110? So in this problem, it is not given. Therefore, our assumption depends on you will get the dividend. You will get the dividend of 110 just before the maturity. That means just before the 6 months. In other words, we are not reinvesting that 110. That is the assumption. So even if you are unconscious of the assumption, you'll get the answer. But my concern is that you should do the problem consciously, not unconsciously. Okay, right? So here our consciousness lies in assumption. So what assumption I am doing? Whatever this 4% dividend yield that I am going to get after 6 months. Therefore, I don't have any opportunity to reinvest that dividend. On the other hand, if I get this dividend income this dividend income 2 months before maturity, rather than getting the entire dividend amount at the end of 6 months, if I get the dividend amount at the end of 4 months, I'll be having an opportunity to reinvest the dividend for 2 months. So in that case, this answer will change. The answer will change. Okay, not the formulas. When depends upon the timing when we have received the dividend, our answer will change. Look at this, how the answer will change. Okay, right. So here we have to focus on this point. Purchase less return from the underlying, less return from the underlying 605. That's okay, right? So here the concept is for this return from the underlying, we have to take 2 points. Okay. So when I take this return from the underlying, when I take this from the underlying, dividend income, the income from the underlying, income from the underlying, income from the underlying, that I'll get 110 income. That I'll get 110%. Okay. So interest on reinvestment of the underlying income. Okay. Because I am receiving after 4 months, I'll be having an opportunity to reinvest for 2 months. So therefore, in that case, income on reinvestment of underlying income. Income on reinvestment, interest on reinvestment of underlying income, interest on reinvestment of underlying income. So how long I am reinvesting is the question mark. How many months I am reinvesting depends upon when we have received. So today we are standing, if the dividend is received after 6 months, no question of reinvestment. If the dividend is received after 4 months, we can reinvest for 2 months. Okay. If the dividend is received after 2 months, we can reinvest for 4 months. Okay. Therefore, in our problem, we have not taken this reinvestment income because they have not given the timing of dividend. They have not given the timing of dividend. Since they have not given the timing of dividend, we are assuming that it is received just before maturity, not much before maturity. If it is received just before maturity, no reinvestment. If it is received much before maturity, then there is a reinvestment. Okay. So in this problem, since I am assuming that I am receiving the dividend at the end of maturity, no reinvestment. On the other hand, if I assume that dividend is received after 4 months, therefore I'll reinvest for 2 months. Look at this 110, I'm reinvesting into 11%, whatever we have taken risk-free rate of return, into 2 by 12. Into 2 by 12. 2 months I'm reinvesting. 2 months I'm reinvesting. So therefore, my total reinvestment income is this point. My total reinvestment income is this. Okay. My total reinvestment income is this point. So this for that, therefore my total income is this. 11,000, 110 plus 102, 110 plus 102. Look at this, how the calculation. From that 11,000, my gross return is 605, but I'm getting 110 from the underlying and reinvestment on the underlying 112. So therefore, my net return, net expected return from the futures contract, net expected return from the futures contract. So net expected return, net expected return, net expected or eligible return, net expected or net eligible return, net eligible profit from futures, net eligible profit from futures. So total eligible profit is 605. Out of that, I'm already getting from the underlying 112. Therefore, net eligible return from the futures is 492. So accordingly, my futures price will be 11,000 plus 492. So this will be 11,492. That's it. Okay, therefore, no use of formulas, nothing, no S0, N2, RD, not all those formulas. Just understand the concept. So therefore, in this problem, what are the 2 assumptions we have taken? One assumption is that the price of each index point is 1 rupees, and another assumption is that dividend is received exactly after 6 months. Therefore, there is no opportunity to reinvest the dividend. Accordingly, there is no opportunity to reinvest the dividend. So accordingly, I'm taking only the gross income. I'm taking only the gross income. So this calculation, the dividend yield is received after maturity. Sorry, after 4 months, 2 months before maturity. So futures price, if dividend is received 2 months before maturity. Okay, futures price, if dividend is received, received 2 months before maturity, 2 months before maturity, and as such dividend is reinvested for 2 months, and reinvested for 2 months, and reinvested for 2 months. This is the problem. So this calculation assumes that futures dividend is received after 2 months before maturity. Therefore, we are reinvesting the dividend for 2 months. So this problem is dividend received is just before the maturity. Accordingly, no opportunity for reinvestment. Okay, futures price. Okay, dividend received just before maturity, not much before maturity, just before maturity. No reinvestment of dividend. No reinvestment. Okay, no reinvestment. If there is no reinvestment, only 110. If there is a reinvestment on that 110, again we'll get the income. On that again we'll get the income. So therefore, be conscious of the conceptual process of how you'll do the problems rather than just simply taking the formulas. Okay, just this is how the conceptual way of doing it. Okay, understand it. I have not used any formula to arrive at the problem. Purely conceptual way. Okay, purchasing a stock, no doubt it is risky, but entering into a futures contract results in a riskless position. Entering into a futures contract result in a riskless position. Therefore, I am eligible only for a risk-free rate of return. A person who purchased the stock and enter into a futures contract is eligible for a total return of risk-free rate of return. That total risk-free rate of return comes from two sources. One is from the underlying in the form of dividend. Another is from the futures profit. Another is from the profit of the futures contract. Total eligible return comes from the two forms. Comes from two ways. One is from the underlying in the form of dividend. Another is from the profit on the futures contract. So therefore, if I know the cost, and if I know the profit, what is the sale price of the futures contract? Very simple. As simple as that. What is the sale price of the futures contract? This is how we have to do it. Okay, yeah, that's it.